Somewhat curiously, this feels both very current and very behind the times. Brand new in the UK and massively advertised by Google on YouTube is this the Pixel 4a. You see, it came out in the USA only exactly 2 months ago, so there are a huge number of reviews over there already online. But A, how does the 4a play in the wider world, not least here in the UK? And B, how does it fare against the Pixel 4a 5G and Pixel 5 announced just a couple of days ago? A recent Phone Show Chat podcast was titled The Pixel Confusion, and there's some aptness to this. Someone wanting a pure Google experience can realistically now take their pick from the old Pixel 3a, the 3a XL, the Pixel 4, the Pixel 4 XL, the 4a here, and then the new 4a 5G and Pixel 5. That's 7 options. And that's not including the Pixel 3 and 3 XL on clearance or in the second-hand market, all of which are queued up to get OS and security updates for years to come. But in truth, when asked, which Pixel do I buy, there's no right answer, since they're almost all good shouts and unusually for Google, almost all good value for money. Now, get any of them and you won't go far wrong. But let's look past models Google no longer sells. Let's look past the 3A series, which were great for last year, but were a bit bezel-tastic. It's tempting to look at last year's flawed Pixel 4 series, which are now appearing at crazy prices on clearance. £464 for a Pixel 4 and Argos, I heard, in the UK this week. Wow. Snap one up if you can, as they still have the highest end chipsets and a telephoto camera plus Face ID. Though with masks in these COVID times, this isn't quite as useful as it was last year. Bargains anyway. But in the spirit of reviewing what's new, back to this year's £350 Pixel 4a and its 2 new stablemates. In fact, I'm going to exclude the 4a 5G since this only really adds 5G, well, duh. A bigger battery, well, the device is a lot bigger, and a wide-angle camera at the expense of an extra £150 and an extra centimetre of height. What's interesting to me, though, is the Pixel 4a and the imminent Pixel 5, both exactly the same size and just about perfect in the hand. Well, my hand anyway. The Pixel 5 is £600, so almost twice the price. So I wanted to look at what you're missing out on by going for the much cheaper 4a. Now, lack of 5G, obviously, though even as we head into 2021, I still don't think anyone should base a buying decision on 5G compatibility. LTE will still be around and working superbly long after whatever phone you buy now is relegated to a dusty drawer or deserving normal relative. There's a plastic build here, not glass made to look like plastic on the 5. But I'm absolutely fine with this. Plastic is almost indestructible, and you can possibly use the 4a naked if you want. Though I still recommend a TPU case. Here's the official Google one, if only to have more grip and some face drop protection. Lack of official waterproofing is something you kind of missed, though I did notice a gasket just inside the SIM tray, and videos on YouTube show complete survivability in water, so presumably it's just a lack of official IP certification, which does cost companies money. Good. Lack of Qi charging here. Now, it's a shame this didn't make it into the Pixel 4a, but in fairness, I can't think of any other sub £400 phone which has this either. There's clearly a thickness and a build cost penalty for Qi. There's only a standard 60Hz screen here rather than 90Hz on the 5, but as with most regular users, yada yada, i.e. not younger tech geeks, I absolutely cannot tell the difference in day-to-day use. We've all been using full-screen touch smartphones for the last decade, and at no stage until 2019 did anyone say, hang on a minute, this is unusable with such a slow display refresh. Not once. 60Hz is fine, it really is. 6 gig of RAM here on the 4a rather than 8 gig on the Pixel 5, but on a 1080p compact smartphone running regular applications, especially without tons of manufacturer bloat, 6 gigabytes of RAM is more than enough, whatever apps you want to multitask. You miss out on an ultra-wide camera. This is perhaps the biggest spec point that might push you to spend more, since wide-angle photos have become quite popular. But I kind of agree with what Google said last year at the Pixel 4 launch. Wide angle is cool and fun, but telephoto is where you actually get to see more of the world in terms of detail and framing. Now, true, the 4a doesn't have the 4's telephoto lens, but then neither does the 5. And Google's high-res zoom software does a great job at 2 times, even 3 times with a standard lens for both phones. There's a smaller battery on the 4a compared to the 5. This is 3140 mAh. though it's been absolutely fine for me in the review period. I never managed to drain it in a day. The Pixel 5 goes up to 4080 mAh by some magic method, despite not actually increasing the phone size. So 33% more battery to catch fire. Packed in. But do you actually need it all? Finally, speakers. I've heard whispers that the Pixel 5 has an underglass speaker at the top, and that is not good, because it means that when watching media, you will not get a full stereo effect. I'll demonstrate the speakers here later. In terms of what the Pixel 4a gives you that the 5 doesn't, other than a better speaker setup, other than the more durable build because of plastic, there's the all-important 3.5mm audio jack. Now, I love having one. It's a useful way to get audio out of and into a smartphone, and it's great to see this sticking around in many top phones in 2020. Shout out to Sony, but also here to Google for keeping the jack on its Pixel phones. Now, the jack output isn't up with the Lumias, LG Quad DACs and the like, but it's perfectly serviceable. And as I say, I just appreciate its presence. Put all of this together and the Pixel 4a seems like a surer recommendation at £350 than the 5 at £600. In terms of raw specs, you can get more horsepower and more gadgets, of course, for less money if you go down the Xiaomi route or similar. But don't underestimate the crucial nature of software updates and vulnerability fixes in these troubled times. Google's guarantee is 3 years and often well into a fourth, plus so-called feature drops, while Xiaomi and other manufacturers have quite patchy records after the first couple of years. So how much is this peace of mind worth? Well, I think £100 is reasonable, so we'd equate the £350 Pixel 4a to a £250 Chinese branded smartphone, which works out a much fairer fight all round. While the £600 Pixel 5 is out-specced by miles by the £500 Chinese competition, so it's harder to recommend. Well, at least until I've tried a Pixel 5, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Watch this space. The camera is as reliable here as always. There are no surprises here for anyone who's tried the exact same camera setup on previous Pixels. And the stereo speakers are better year on year, now with upgraded components, higher volume and more punch. And you know I love my phone speakers. Here's a demo, full volume, Martin Miller, covering a Gary Moore classic. Very good. In short, I loved the Google Pixel 4a. I realise the UK is late to this particular party, but it absolutely lives up to the hype. It's an utterly solid recommendation for any tech-savvy normal. They perhaps settle on Android, but don't want to get mired in bloatware, adware, spyware, and so on. And while these may be unfounded worries in many cases, there's peace of mind for them to simply pick up the Pixel 4a and they're set for not a lot of cash until 2024, at least.